Hey folks, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you just landed here, do me a favor, man. Hit like, hit subscribe. You'd be doing me a favor if you did that. Today we're going to go into the carnivore diet with Dr. Ken Berry, MD. This guy's a medical doctor. He has a huge channel, 1.56 million subscribers, so he's done really well. Let's go ahead and see what he says about the carnivore diet. I just did a video on Frank Tufano. He was on it for supposedly 8 years. I'm putting that in quotation marks, 8 years. And this gentleman, Dr. Ken Berry, MD, he's saying that he's been on the carnivore diet for 1.5 years. So let's begin.
The next tip is to focus on fatty meat, whether this is fatty seafood or fatty cuts of land meat. You always want to opt for a fattier cut. I try to keep a 1-to-1 ratio between fat and protein in my carnivore diet, 1-to-1 with regards to the weight.
If you eat a diet like this, you're probably going to pretty much be 1-to-1 just naturally. If you look at the meats and you're eating the eggs, the meats, throw in some cheeses, it's going to be 1-to-1 more or less. You'll find out it'll just naturally be that way. At least it is in nature. It seems to be 1-to-1. Because proteins to fats, it seems to be like about 1-to-1 right there. If you're eating products like this.
I'm eating, and I don't measure.
Now, first, I want to say I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a dietitian. So if you need to get advice, you need to go to Dr. Ken Berry, MD. Get it from him and not me.
I just guesstimate, and I think that's fine for you to do that as well. If you feel like your meal needs more fat, then add more fat. If you feel like it's too fatty, then add less fat next time. This is one of many.
That's easier said than done when you want to add fat to your diet. What I do to make it simple is just cook it in butter, cook it in ghee, cook it in lard, beef tallow, things like that. It makes it a lot easier because actually choking down some fat from meats can at times be kind of difficult. At least that's what I've experienced.
Play around with and experiment with on a carnivore diet. Now, the next, I think this is important, especially if you've been eating a high carbohydrate junk diet for years and years, is to transition slowly to carnivore. I don't think this should be a tomorrow I'm going 100% carnivore. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, he says to have a transition of 1 to 3 weeks. If you've been on American Standard Diet for years, so let's say, for example, you're 40 years old and you've been eating American Standard Diet for 40 years, it's going to take a little bit more time than 1 to 3 weeks to get your metabolism healthy. I'm more of a proponent of getting your metabolism healthy so you're not relying on the carbs. So you're able to do fast, 3-day fast, a 4-day fast, or a 5-day fast. No problem like that. You should be able to do that. And if you have a healthy metabolism, it will work, no issues. Where people run into issues, they want to do a fast or on a American Standard type diet where it's higher in carbs, which is recommended, than going into a fast or eating a diet that's low carbs is painful. I'm going to go into something in just a second after he goes over his portion here. So let's listen to what he has to say.
For many of you, I don't think that's probably ideal. You need to transition slowly over 1 to 3 weeks.
So basically what I'm saying is that you want to transition into getting your metabolism healthy where you're able to burn both fats and carbs, not a problem. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe even a little longer. And I'll tell you more about why I think this is in a minute. But there's bound to be some carbohydrate withdrawal symptoms if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet now.
I want to go into that. When I started learning about my body when I got older and I was following the American Standard Diet, which is what I was doing. I was just like, that's what everybody else was eating. I was starting to become reliant on carbs. Then I realized, hey, you know what? I need to get my act together. I need to lose a little bit of weight and not be so reliant on carbs. And I could tell from, hey, it was becoming an issue. Like I would restrict myself from some carbohydrates and I was going through some withdrawal symptoms. And I know exactly what he's talking about here. It will happen to most people that have been relying on carbs for most of their life. And it's going to take a period of time. With that said, when I first started trying to go into a keto diet, I would go say 3-4 months trying to get myself off the carbs. Let me go into a keto. The first year, 2 years, I said, keto diet is bullcrap. No way. My metabolism was still unhealthy. So I was still feeling a little bit of pain and withdrawal symptoms going into a keto diet. I was not comfortable at all. But after about 2.5 years of practicing it, doing some fasts, getting my metabolism so it wasn't reliant on carbs, and I was able to go into a keto diet, no problem. So now I understood, and I look back and I realized, what was the issue? My metabolism back then was still unhealthy. It took more or less 2.5 years to get it healthy again.
Diets for years, then your stomach has gotten lazy. Your stomach.
Yeah, he's right about that. I will agree with him on that. You're going to have to probably learn how to get your metabolism, your stomach, and your digestive system to get used to burning the higher fat products, particularly the saturated fat. So you're going to need to increase the acidity of your stomach. That works well with apple cider vinegar. I've tried protocols on that. It works very well.
It's supposed to have a very high acidity to your stomach fats. So throw away all the vegetable oils, all the shortening, all of that junk.
I agree with him 100% on that. You have to get rid of the vegetable oils. You have to get rid of the Crisco's, the Wessons, all that stuff. And if you like to go out and eat a lot, all the restaurants are using canola oil for the most part. That's why I limit my eating to not going out. I cook it at home with lard, beef tallow. I use duck fat, I use ghee, and I use butter. Primarily butter, lard, beef tallow, and duck fat is primarily what I use. And when I go buy that stuff at Whole Foods, everybody looks at me weird and go, "What are you doing with that?" You know, and some people don't even know what beef tallow is. Just to give you an idea, back in the day, I think it was pre-1981 or 82, McDonald's used to cook all their French fries in beef tallow. And then they switched over and they cook all their French fries now in canola oil.
That stuff is very inflammatory and bad for you. I want you to cook in beef tallow, in bacon grease, in butter or ghee. You need to use an animal fat to cook in.
So there you go. He went over all the ones that I like to use. And when you use those products to cook your steak and whatever else you like to cook that with, whether you want to throw in some onions to cook them in, it tastes a lot better and it's more healthy.
Isotal is also wonderful. That's going to increase your fat to protein of real salt in your diet. Salt is not bad for you. It's good for you. I use Redmond's real salt because it's
Redmond's real salt. That's what I like to use too. I like to just change up the salt, check them out. I actually like to get some other types of sea salt. It's kind of like more fluffy and it'll stick to the steak. I like to use that type of salt. The Redmond's real salt just kind of goes on the steak and then it falls off. It's good salt though. I think all the salts more or less are pretty much the same. Like, hey, my salt's better than this salt and this salt's better than that salt. It's salt. Look, it's salt at the end of the day. So I'm not going to recommend any one type of salt, but I do agree with them 100%. Salt's not bad for you. Salt's actually good for you. And if you start doing a fasting protocol, you'll find out how important salt is to the body.
And I would tell my friends and family that I'm about to do a 90-day carnivore diet challenge to help improve my health.
I'd agree with them on that. You want to have the pantry cleaned out. You know, if you're going to have candy sitting there, cupcakes, donuts, and all this other stuff, and you start to get a little bit hungry, you're going to have a propensity to want to probably eat those things. So I do it for myself. I live by myself, so it's easy. But if you're with a family, obviously this is going to be more difficult of a diet, particularly if they don't want to do it with you. So the practicality of some of these diets can be difficult at times. Particularly if you don't have family members that aren't going along with it. They just want to keep an American standard diet. So you're going to have those products in the cupboard or in the refrigerator. One thing that I disagree with them on is that you should be trying to get your metabolism healthy, whether you want to do that through keto or through carnivore, and start learning about what products are really natural. So say, for example, right now in the United States, most people don't eat beef liver because they think it's unhealthy. It has cholesterol in it. Beef liver by far is the most nutrient dense food on the planet. All you have to do is take a look at the profile, the vitamins and the minerals and everything that's in beef liver. It doesn't taste that good, so most of people don't want to eat it. But if you want to eat for health, I would recommend putting beef liver into your diet at least once or twice a week. If you're going to eat from health and you're doing it for longevity, that's just, it's called life. Sometimes you have to do things that are not comfortable all the time. So right now I eat where I'm trying to figure out the name of the type of eater. I'm not really eating for taste right now. I'm eating for health, and there's a difference. So if you're going to eat for taste all the time, then you're probably going to be veering towards more of an unhealthy diet. Everything needs to taste good. I need to have mouth pleasure all the time and enjoy it. So that's the issue with that. And if you're going to eat for health and longevity and try to avoid the chronic problems that most Americans have today in the United States, you're probably going to have to eat things where it's for your health rather than eating things for pleasure.
Weight loss.
Now, I'm not saying completely avoid it all the time, but just come up with a lifestyle change where, hey, you're not having these cravings in all the time where, oh, I need to have some potato chips, I need to have some Pop-Tarts or something like that. I mean, it's common sense. We know that a Pop-Tart is not natural. We know that if you have beef liver, if you get it from a farmer, that's going to be natural. That comes from nature. Just looking at this from a common sense point of view. So he does a good job. He does a pretty decent job of explaining this.
I feel like I can be healthier on this diet so that they'll be more apt to be on board with you. But if you've got here to complete your 90-day challenge without messing up.
Yeah, he wants to go 90 days on the diet. I wouldn't even recommend that. I would recommend something more like about 60 days or maybe even 30 days to see how it goes for you. 90 days is 3 months. Obviously, we all know that. That's a long time for the diet. Depends on where you are in your lifestyle change right now. It's going to depend. Like I'm more like, hey, I don't like to say, oh, I'm going to do carnivore diet. I'm going to do this type of diet. I'm going to do this type of diet. I don't recommend, man, people are eating the low carb all the time. You should go out of low carb for a period of time. I like to eat low carb during the winter, and then I like to eat higher carb during the summer because you're more active during the summer. You're sweating a lot more, at least I am. You're riding a bike, for example, going for walks, you might do some run, you might be working out a lot more, trying to get in shape, so you're going to sweat more, so you're going to need more salt, you're going to need more potassium. And to get more potassium, you really are going to be eating more of the fruits and like peppers and potatoes. That's where you get the potassium. Potassium is raw milk also too is very high in potassium, but I'm thinking for the carnivore diet that you are trying to avoid the raw milk because it has some it has lactose in it, which are sugars. And they're trying to get you to avoid all sugars together.
Having a good source of electrolytes and minerals.
You're going to find out your electrolytes and minerals are going to be very important, particularly during the summer. If you're going to be doing a lot of sweating and you're going to be very active. That's why I like to do these types of diets in the winter where there's less sweating going on. At least for me, there is.
It's going to help you with the carbohydrate withdrawal symptoms that you'll probably experience. And it's also going to help you fight.
That's BS. I don't believe that for a second. If you take the salts, you're still going to go through the carbohydrate withdrawals. It's more of a mental thing. I don't think it has anything to do with the salt. At least that's how it affected me. You're going to have cravings for carbohydrates if you've been on a carbohydrate diet for say 10, 15, 20, or your whole life, for example. So it's going to be difficult to try to get your mind transformed where it's not craving those products anymore.
Cravings for junk food.
And doing it through salt, I don't think it's going to happen. At least it didn't for me.
It's very over your carnivore diet. I promise you, if you'll just look, you will find someone who has chickens in their backyard. Or you'll find a local rancher who has sheep or goats or cows or some other animal that they're happy.
I do agree with him on that. You know, if you're going to eat a carnivore diet like this, then you want to try to do your best to source local sources where they're taking care of the animals, and you can go pick up your meat products from them. He's going to say probably it's a little bit cheaper. It can be a little bit cheaper, but also can be a pretty huge lifestyle change. So I'll tell you what I do. When it comes to the organ meats, I try to get them from a farmer. Whole Foods actually has pretty good, they get it once a week where you can pick up some beef liver, beef heart. Sometimes they'll have kidney. That's pretty good product. They have decent eggs now, pasture raised eggs at most stores. So that's not really too big of a deal. Obviously, they're going to be a lot more expensive than probably buy them at a farmer. I've seen $3 per dozen from a farmer. So they're going to be $5 likely at the store. Now, to get raw milk shouldn't be an issue. You should be spending somewhere between $4 to $8 a gallon for some raw milk. And for most of you, you're probably going to be limiting yourself on the raw milk unless you're, I would say 28 or younger, where you're a little bit more active, maybe higher metabolism. You'll find that, at least for me, I find that if you do go to excess on the raw milk, for me, you will gain weight. You can gain weight pretty rapid, because I don't think it's so much that it's the milk itself. It's a liquid, it's nutrient and caloric dense product, and you're drinking it. and you can get a lot down real easy. That's the issue, I think, mostly with the raw milk.
Happy to show you that meat.
That's why I'm more a proponent of raw milk cheese. So now you're going to eat it and you're not going to ingest so much of it. You can get a block of raw milk cheese and it can be, say, a couple ounces, and it can be 200-300 calories more or less. And you're getting the vitamin A and a lot of vitamins and nutrients from the raw milk. However, with raw milk cheese, with the raw milk cheese, but with the raw milk, you can dump yourself a glass. I think I checked it out. One glass, normal standard glass, it's not 8 ounces. I think it's going to be 12 or 14 ounces. And you dump the milk in there and it's raw milk. I checked it out. It's like 650 calories in that glass. It's a lot of calories.
Look, if you have friends come over and they bring a casserole and you're like, and you eat that?
You know, I think it's kind of normal, man, is that people are going to make mistakes. You know, Frank Tavano, he's saying he went on the carnivore diet for 8 years. I find that very difficult to believe. You're going to make mistakes. That's to be expected. That's why you probably are going to do a diet like this. You should probably set aside a day or two during the week where you're going to have some carbs, like a potato or something like that. Try to keep it on the natural side. But if you insist on having like maybe a donut or something like that to get you through for the next week, just have a schedule or a plan to come up. Hey, I'm going to have that and I'm going to stop eating the donuts and get those out of my life, because I know those are no good. There's no benefit from eating a donut, period. I think we can agree on that. So you're going to make slip up. For somebody to say, I'm going to go into a carnivore diet and not make any mistakes, is not even realistic. So you want to go into a diet like this, in my opinion, you want to go into a diet like this and have a schedule like, okay, on Sunday, I'm going to relax a little bit and maybe enjoy a meal with my family and have some eggs and bacon, but then also throw in some other stuff there too, or whatever you're going to have for breakfast that morning on a Sunday, for example. So you can throw in some milk and have some fruits or something like that. I don't think that's going to be such a big deal if you do that.
Carnivore diet. So a carnivore diet is going to be a very, very meat heavy ketogenic diet, but you still have some plants in there. Not me. Some people do better on a carnivore diet. Some people do better on just a meat.
Yeah, some of the diet, what I disagree with a lot of these guys on the diets, particularly with the keto and the carnivore diet, is they seem to want to avoid fruits completely. I am not a proponent of avoiding fruits. I recommend actually during the summer, and if you're active, a person who likes to run or do biking and lifting weights, you want to incorporate these types of foods into your diet, in my opinion, the fruits. Now, do you want to overeat the fruits? No. Do you want to do it all year long? No, because you want to go into your diet, make sure your metabolism stays healthy, where you get off the carbohydrates or you go low carbohydrates to train your body to keep burning the fats. So once you get your metabolism healthy, you don't want to go unhealthy again and go, hey, my metabolism's healthy, I'm going to just start eating what I was before. You know, that defeats the purpose. You want to keep it that way. You have to stay on top of it. It's just like, for example, a car. I'm going to use a car. You know, you got a car and you have to take it in for maintenance. You have to do that with your body too. That's the same thing.
Condiments, onion, garlic. Some carnivores have to eliminate all that stuff and only use salt or mineral drops, or they personally do better when I get the fat ratio as high as I possibly can. And I'll do this by cooking an animal fat, by adding butter to the meat.
Yeah, one of the things is that I wanted to mention is when you go into a diet like this, and the saturated fats is going to be the most difficult for a lot of people to be able to burn those. That's why you have these diets out here where people are talking about MCT oils and all that. MCT oils are very easy. They just go right in, very easy for the body to digest. As a matter of fact, if you chug a bunch of those things, I think the MCT, because they're shorter chain fatties, will cross the blood-brain barrier. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. That's why people are looking for these things to get themselves to try to feel more comfortable. If you want your body to learn to burn those saturated fats, you're going to go through a period of time, a lengthy period of time, where you're going to be uncomfortable mentally. At least I was. I'm just letting you guys know that this is not going to be an easy road for people that have been carb burners for a long, long time. Some of you that are younger, maybe early 20s, even mid 20s, it could be a little bit easier for you because your metabolism has not been burning the carbs as quite as long. But some of you's going 35, 40, even 45 and beyond 50, and you've been eating like that, the American Standard Diet, you're going to have some more issues and a lot more work to do. He goes into other stuff like making bone broth. I don't want to go into that too much. That's kind of like your thing. If you want to start doing that, taking the bones of the animal. He mentioned, hey, you know, respect the animal. Don't waste things. I'm 100% on board with that. It's not anything to do with respecting the animal, in my opinion. What it is just don't waste things. There's a lot of waste in the United States. I don't like wasters. I don't like it. Don't waste things. So if you can eat everything, eat everything. So don't waste it. And if you want to make yourself some bone broth by not wasting the bones, then hey, so be it. Go for it. But that's not really practical for a lot of people. This is a huge, huge lifestyle change. One person doing it, and then you go into a whole family. This is a huge lifestyle change. He went over bone marrow briefly. Bone marrow is actually really good. I don't know if some of you realize this, but elite chefs actually use bone marrow as a replacement for some butters for making their food taste a little, give it a characteristic type taste, if you will. And that's what they do. Bone marrow actually tastes really good. I've had it many, many times. I've never had any issues with it. Raw bone marrow too. If you take the bone marrow and you stick it in the refrigerator, it'll harden up. And the way I describe it, it's like a buttery cheese. It's very chalky and it turns into a buttery cheese and it tastes really, really good like that. All right, folks, that's the end of his video. I don't have too many things to say. You know, he's got some good ideas. Just some of the things that I disagree with him on is that he's talking about, oh, 1 to 3 weeks, you know, get your body used to that, carbohydrate withdrawals. I'm just going to tell you through my own experience that it took me 2.5 years to get off the carbohydrate withdrawals, to get my metabolism completely healthy where I didn't feel anything anymore. 2.5 years is what it took me. My diet was pretty poor prior to that. I was eating, you know, fast foods and pizzas and stuff like that. The American Standard Diet, more or less, is what people would call it. And it took me 2.5 years to get my metabolism was healthy. That's how long it took. And anyhow, that's what it took. It took me 2.5 years to get my metabolism healthy to where I could just go right into a keto diet if I wanted to. So my last diet at the beginning of this year, I was having raw milk cheese, I was having meat, and I was having 3 raw eggs. I didn't start off like that. I kind of tailor it down. So when I do a diet, and I want to start losing body fat during the winter where I'm not doing a lot of activity, I will start off with vegetables in the diet. I actually have peanut butter in there too, because peanut butter is one of the things, it's like my cheat meal. I have peanut butter. I like the taste of peanut butter. So I bring that down. I start taking things out. So if I have celery or if I have greens, I start taking that out. I'll take out the peanut butter. So then I'm at the point over a couple months where I'm eating only eggs, raw milk cheese, and meat. And I'll get down to like 1,400, 1,500 calories. I'm not very active though. This is during the winter, so I'm not as active. I can get down that low. And I'll go 6 days like that, and then I'll have a cheat meal. I'll reload on carbs. So I'll go 6 days like that, and I'll reload on carbs. And that will strip off the fat. At least it does for me. It'll start melting the fat off pretty good. All right, folks, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you finished all the way to the end, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.